The Wild Party is a musical that made its debut in 2000 in New York City when it received critical praise along with a raft of Tony nominations. In a piece last year announcing it would come to the city, the Toronto Star's Richard Ouzounian described The Wild Party as the story of a drug-riddled debauch that turns violent thanks to racial and sexual undercurrents. Sounds exciting to me. After years of wrangling to bring it to Canada, the work is finally making its Toronto debut. The Wild Party will open at the Berkeley Street Theatre starting February 20th. The official opening is February 23rd. Toronto's own Acting Up Stage Company, together with Obsidian Theatre, are presenting the work, which features a who's who of Canadian theatre talent. Mitchell Marcus is the artistic director of Acting Up Stage Company. Tanya Sinawitratne is the general manager at Obsidian. They joined me in studio this morning. Welcome to Hydra.
Thanks for having us.
Hello.
So, explain to me how you came to the process of bringing this musical here, first of all, because it wasn't an easy process, was it, Mitchell?
No, it took a long time. We've been looking to do the show since 2008 was the first time we wanted to bring Wild Party to Toronto, and there were complexities with rights. There's two different versions of the show, so there were some complications around which writer owned the rights to what around the world, because they both have some of the underlying rights to the poem. And ultimately, it's just a mammoth work. There's 15 actors, there's 5 musicians, and so, we had a lot of false starts, whether things broke down for rights reasons or just for, oh my God, we can't afford this reasons. And thankfully, the stars have finally aligned to make this happen in Toronto.
Now, when it opened in 2000 in New York, Brent Brantley of the New York Times, who's the theater critic, said, "What has wound up on the stage is a portrait of desperation that itself feels harshly, wantonly desperate." Can the both of you go into the attraction of this desperation in theater and how it makes The Wild Party different from a lot of other theater pieces?
Well, what I love about The Wild Party is I think it reflects what a lot of us experience in life, where this party begins and everybody's fabulous and they're dressed to the nines and they're talking about how wonderful their life is. And, by the time 4 a.m. has hit and their mascara's all smudged and, everybody's kind of fallen apart, mostly because they've had to face the realities that are hidden behind sort of their mask of fabulousness that they put on. So I think it's something that in theater and in the world, but specifically in theater, we all relate to that idea of having our public persona and then what we all feel on the inside. And I think that idea will be quite resonant with audiences in Toronto.
It's interesting because the composer of this, Joseph Lachusa, has said the show is all about the masks we wear culturally and the removal of those masks over the course of the party. Mm-hmm. So it's all there. When you decided to do this, both companies, both Obsidian and Acting Up, how important was it to you to make sure it was completely timely to Toronto audiences? And how much did your casting play into that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one of the things that occurred when we were thinking through the show for this recent incarnation is, which is when Obsidian sort of came into the mix as well, is we stumbled upon an interview with the writers, with Lachusa and George C. Wolfe, and they had originally written...
George C. Wolfe is
Michael John Lachusa and George C. Wolfe both wrote the book to the show together,
okay.
And George C. Wolfe is a very prominent African-American director and playwright. And they talked about the fact that they took this poem, which really is a poem all about arguably white people.
From 1928.
Yeah, 1928. But, to make it relevant for 2000, and I guess to just find the politic that's not in the poem, but that they wanted on stage, they had written this for a black actress. They wrote it for Vanessa Williams, because the idea is Queenie is this vaudeville dancer who hides behind a mask of snow, is what the poem suggests. So they took it further to think, well, why is she hiding behind a mask of snow? Well, maybe she's a black actress who's sort of hiding, but that's the mask that she hides behind is this sort of powdered face. So once we found that, we thought, and they didn't end up doing that. Vanessa Williams got pregnant and she dropped out, and Toni Collette came in, who's a white actress.
Who was later nominated for a Tony.
Who was nominated, and she was great. She was great. It just, when we reread the show through that lens, we thought, oh my God, this is so much more interesting, the politic that they were striving for that never materialized. And so for us to make it relevant for a Toronto audience, that's what we felt, is that the idea of diversity, the idea of, what are the masks we hide behind, that are still relevant for various contemporary issues, that we really wanted the show to kind of reflect a contemporary Toronto, and to have the idea of the mask go deeper than just public persona, but to also get into race and sexuality and things like that. So partially that's when we turned to Obsidian and went, we think we're going to approach this in a way that's going to make this, there's already racial themes in it, but where we're going to bring this right to the forefront. And, is this something we'd want to journey on together?
Absolutely. And we certainly had the talent for that. So we're just so happy with this cast. It's a perfect marriage of people, I feel. It's worked out really well.
The role of Burrs, one of the main roles in this, he's a vaudeville star who performs in blackface, and it's a role that's been traditionally performed by a white actor. But in your production, you've cast a black actor, Darren A. Herbert. How was this important?
That's the opposite story of the Queenie one, whereas in Queenie we went, this was the curatorial idea, why don't we go for this? This was the opposite. Darren's a performer who's worked for us 3 times. And he's unbelievable. I just think he's one of the best performers in Canada. Everything he's ever done for us has led to Dora nominations for him. And when we were thinking about the show, we kept thinking, God, who would we find as Burrs? It's this very difficult, masculine, sexy, and absolutely insane character. And who is it that brings all that to the table? And we couldn't think of anybody. And one day Darren walked into our office. He was picking something up, and he's done this show before in a different role. And he said, hey, are you ever going to get around to doing the Wild Party? And I said, it's so funny you say that because we were thinking about it for next year. I said, would you ever want to do it again? He said, yeah, I think so. I said, well, who would you want to play? And he said, well, I think I'd want to do Burrs. And my mind blew open because never, it's a role, it's supposed to be a white actor in blackface. I never thought of Darren for it. And I had lunch with our director after. I said, Darren's interested in this. Could that? I said, he'd be amazing. Could that work? And our director went, absolutely. There were black actors in blackface. And Darren's has really shifted what I think the conversation of the show is, and just brought the idea of race again to the forefront with this idea of this central black couple, one of whom powders her face with white and one of whom puts on blackface every night to be part of a minstrel show. And it's just quite explosive, I think, having those 2 people at the center.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, particularly with Obsidian and your involvement in this, because you have as your mandate that it is to produce plays, develop playwrights, and train emerging theater professionals. Obsidian is passionately dedicated to the exploration, development, and production of the Black voice. And I'm wondering how the Wild Party fits that mandate, particularly in 2015 when there are a lot of racial issues at the forefront, socially, where it is on the minds of a lot of people, and it is on the front pages of newspapers. How does the Wild Party fit in with your mandate in the here and now?
Well, I think that I think that the Wild Party in general, just the whole idea behind, the world that it creates and the way that it is. It portrays the people and the characters. I think it works really well with our the way we run our company as well, because we really celebrate the Black actor and we really celebrate the artist, and we basically have all these people who want to work in this city, who have all this talent, who we're able to help and give a platform to. And I think the show itself, it just has a feel of celebration in a way that Obsidian can basically match with. And I've really when Mitchell brought this project to us, it was a perfect fit because of the fact that our show at the Mountaintop Prior was also about masks. And so it worked out really well with, the whole concept of Queenie being in a mask and what they do at the party and how they sort of expose themselves at the end, to be who they really are. And Obsidian is all about that. Obsidian is all about, bringing raw talent, bringing young talent, and having them just be who they are and perform and just show their abilities to the city. So I think the match is perfect, actually.
I know that Obsidian has a history of producing some really popular, really talked about works, just like Acting Up. You both have that. But yet, you both have to put bums in seats at the same day at the end, and a lot of people with this are going to be talking about the party, the drug use in this play, the orgy, there's an orgy scene, the fights, the violence, the scenes of homosexuality and bisexuality and those explorations as well. What do you hope audiences ultimately take away from this? Because there is a mix of debauchery and a good time, but there's also this incredibly important, poignant thing behind it. And I mean, one of those things is going to put bums in seats, or both, depending. But, what do you really hope audiences take away, or in the end of the day, from the Wild Party?
I think the main thing about theater is that it should be entertaining. And I think the Wild Party achieves that very much. And I feel, when you do a show, there are all these aspects of social consciousness and, relatability and all those things that come up. But I think at the end of the day, the first thing that an audience member should have is an entertaining product, so that they sit there and they enjoy what they're looking at. And all the other stuff is almost subconscious, like the ability to relate to a character and follow that character throughout the play and find something that you mesh with that character that allows you to escape during those 2 hours. That's sort of a subconscious, later to be thought of thing. But the first thing that should happen is you should be entertained. And I think that the Wild Party definitely achieves that.
I love the work that surprises you in terms of its poignancy, and I think this is one of those where, for a while, you're at a party and it's fun and everybody's introducing themselves and they're funny and they're fabulous, and then somehow by the end, in the last few minutes, you're kind of moved by, you're really moved by this woman, this Queenie's journey, and how she's finally kind of, going to leave all. Well, I'm not going to give away the ending, but just what ends up happening. And that's my favorite kind of theater, is the kind of theater that sneaks up on you and at the end of the day leaves you with a feeling of, that something transformative has happened, but it can still, knock your socks off in terms of great singing and dancing and story.
Knock your socks off. That would be definitely something I think the Wild Party is capable of doing. It runs February 20th to March 8th at the Berkeley Street Theater. The official opening is February 23rd. I've been speaking with Mitchell Marcus. He is the artistic director of Acting Up Stage Company, and Tanya Sinewi-Rutne of Obsidian Theatre Company. They are both co-producing the Wild Party in Toronto. If you would like more information, go to actingupstage.com and obsidiantheatre.com. Thank you for joining me this morning, Tanya and Mitchell.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.